In November of 2004, health textbooks were up for adoption along with many other textbooks.
The board heard public testimony from many individuals about the high school books, and some of the issues were related to the extent to which more sensitive subjects such as contraception and sex education, disease prevention, those types of subjects, the extent to which they were covered in the student book as well as in the teacher edition.
We have a specific Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills for Health that says that students shall be provided information about methods to prevent HIV and other STD exposure, including abstinence and including contraceptive measures, including condoms. So it's stated in there in the law that you have to teach that. Well, the way they got around this is saying, well, we're going to put it in the teacher's edition. Okay. Well, clearly that's not what the intent of the TEKS are. The TEKS don't say teachers shall be exposed to. It says students shall be exposed to.
And I testified in front of the state board as to why it was an error to actually use the language that they were using, because it would confuse students, and also it didn't fit the law we passed in '95. And the law was not an abstinence-only law, it was an abstinence-based law, and from that it should extend to the textbooks.
You know, there is no textbook that's going to please all the people all the time, and you know, no one could write such a book. And I think that's what's great about Texas and about our process. It's very open. The state board is to be commended for the number of hours they sat and listened to testimony.
I was one of the last people to get to speak at the textbook adoption hearings. The actual board members, the one from Lubbock, whose name is escaping me, was sleeping against the wall while I was giving my presentation. I swear he opened his eyes when I said Lubbock and closed them again when I began speaking.
People's minds were definitely made up before the hearing started. I mean, you had your, your don't approve the textbook side people, and you had your approve the textbook side people, and you had the different board members who definitely came into it with their own opinions.
You might also understand, however, that these are strictly health books. They are not sex education books. And the only reason why this subject would ever come up in a health class is in the interest of preventing sexually transmitted diseases. It's not a sex education book. There is no sex education curriculum required by the state.
We were enormously disappointed in our elected officials, especially when you look at the number of postcards we had sent to the State Board of Education. We collected about 5,000 signatures across the state from people, concerned Texans who wanted to make sure that these textbooks had a comprehensive approach.
These are health textbooks. For high school students, they should include that common sense practical information. They should include medically accurate information about the prevention of sexually transmitted diseases, the prevention of pregnancy. Abstinence is by far the best way to avoid both of those, to avoid a sexually transmitted disease, to avoid pregnancy. Problem is that's not complete information. It doesn't always deal with the real-life situations teens face.
A lot of people think textbooks should represent the way the world is. Other people think textbooks should represent the way we want the world to be. And clearly, the social conservatives want a book that represents the way they want the world to be rather than portraying reality.
I heard from students before the fact, many who felt that the books were inadequate and a joke, that they did not treat the subject of human sexuality in light of what is actually happening in their world. And they felt that it was an imbalanced approach also.
When they are given limited information, I do worry about whether or not they'll take it seriously. When you're given a textbook that talks about abstinence only, and there are a lot of kids, say in your class, that are sexually active, to that student, this textbook does not reflect the reality of their lives. So why should they take it seriously?
The problem is not solely with, if you look at the book coldly and say, okay, so we are going to emphasize, the law is going to emphasize abstinence only. Why then are we first in pregnancy? You've made a quantum leap there without a lot of other things being taken into consideration. It can't just be that one issue. But we can certainly say that that may have been a part of it, you know, that we weren't talking about it.
I think it has a bearing upon the fact we have an uncomfortableness about our own human sexuality, and so therefore actually talking to your child about it is an uncomfortable feeling.
Part of it is that we have such a long way to go in educating adults about the prevalence and risk of sexually transmitted diseases. I think most of them have been unaware.
Nationwide, about half of all new HIV infections are occurring in young people between the ages of 15 and 24.
Texas is the nation's highest birth rate among teens, ages 15 to 17 and ages 18 and 19.
And 75–80% of high school kids report their first sexual activity without any contraception whatsoever. You know, and so we're clearly missing the boat here.
It's detrimental to our students, our children, because if they're taught only abstinence only, then they don't actually, they learn myths. They learn that if you want to protect yourself against AIDS, you need to get plenty of rest. And that has no bearing on whether or not you're protected from AIDS at all. And these things are not based on science, they're based on religion.
Particularly the politics of the State Board of Education. It has been literally taken over by a narrow fraction of the state of Texas that wants to shield information from students because of their moral and religious beliefs, and that's what they want to impose through these textbooks.
That's kind of how the religious right and social conservatives have taken over in a lot of areas, is by controlling state boards of education. And in Texas, we're one of 2 states that has statewide adoption. Other states don't have adoption processes like we do, or individual school districts decide. So whatever Texas and California does is really what the rest of the country does.
Publishers tell us we have a lot of influence on the nation because we are such a large textbook market. They do write what they call Texas editions of their books.
Texas is one of the largest purchasers of the textbooks, so some publishers will not make another edition, and this lovely Texas version that we have with the medically inaccurate information and suppositions about certain things will be distributed across the United States, and I really think that that is a dangerous effect that Texas is having on the United States.
The challenge is that if you don't give the correct information, then the assumptions are made by children where the holes are left. And by young adults, and they do things that actually are not healthy for them.
And our sexuality is something that's not to be feared or run away from, and it's not something that we're just going to sign a card and be done with it. We have to understand it, and children need to understand it.